couple of weeks ago, I turned 34. I know, thank you, that's very exciting. Yes, thank you. Which means I'm solidly in my mid-30s now. Can't claim early 30s, solidly in the mids, which is tough. It's hard for me to believe, but getting older, which seems silly to some of you for me to say that, but I'm in high school ministry, so I'm 100 years old to them. And so getting older there are a couple things that have been really interesting about getting older. One of those things is that I don't really care about new things anymore. I'm starting to not care about new things that come out, new things that happen. I don't care about that. I'm just kind of revisiting old things that I already know, but then diving into it at a deeper level, right? And so just becoming more nerdy about things that I already knew about. And one of those things, interestingly enough, and I would not have anticipated this if you'd asked me when I was a teenager, one of those things has been a resurgence of enjoyment of WWE wrestling. After a 20-year break from that sports entertainment industry, I am kind of back. And it's the weirdest thing. That was not on my bingo card. And so, by the way, and this just dawned on me, is at 34, someone in my family had the nerve to remind me that I've lived more time on planet Earth than Jesus did. Which, that's unnecessary. You don't do that. So I don't know what a sock hop is, but I have more life experience than Jesus, so take that. So that's interesting. Okay, so one of the cool things about getting back into wrestling and being into wrestling as an adult is that I have a greater appreciation for a lot of things, okay? One of the things that I really appreciate about WWE wrestling is the storytelling. As a preacher, I've kind of a vested interest in taking a group of people on a journey and help we feel things, we move things, and then it moves us, right? And that storytelling is a big part of WWE world. I also am really enjoying listening to wrestlers who are now retired, who are opening up and peeling back the curtain and talking about moments that I remember seeing when I was a kid, middle school. I remember seeing those moments on TV, but didn't have the full story of what was going on. So I'm really appreciating as an adult going in and, oh my gosh, he got concussed during that match. I didn't even realize, oh, that makes sense. That was a terrible match, right? So experiencing those things now as an adult. But the biggest thing that I'm really enjoying about being a WWE fan as an adult is I really, really appreciate those live stunts, man. I mean, a frog splash off the top of a ladder, it wows me as much now as it did when I was 10. Maybe more so, actually, because now I have a full appreciation for how that can how easily, from a physics standpoint, and then from a physiological, biological, I have such an appreciation for how wrong that can go, how easy it would be for that to go poorly. And so I'm wowed by it, you see stunts in movies and that's cool, and that's real stunt people doing the thing, but it's not the actor that you're watching, right? But I really have an appreciation for the character that I'm seeing on TV is actually the one who is doing a front flip from 10 feet in the air onto another human being. That's dope. So say whatever you will about professional wrestling. You can say that it's dumb, or that it's staged, or that it's weird. And I'm not going to argue with you on any of that stuff. I'll give you all of that. But you couldn't do it. And I couldn't either. And even if we could, even if we had the athletic ability to do it, I don't think you or I has the constitution to get up on top of that ladder and then do an aerial off of it onto someone else through a table. You know what I mean? I'm not doing, listen, you ain't getting me up on that ladder, maybe not even on the top rope, because I know once I go up there, I gotta get back down. So I'm not doing it. But it's interesting, this concept of climbing ladders and, I don't wanna climb the ladder, right? That doesn't really apply to other areas of life, does it? No, we want to climb the ladder in every other instance of life, and the biggest thing is, we talk about corporate ladder, or if you're a student, then academics, right? Climbing the ladder, getting achieving as much as you can, achievement for achievement's sake, right? We want to climb the ladder, we want to make more money, we want to be successful, right? So we climb the ladder. And then for some of us, it's more of a ladder of, our relationships around us, right? And or self-actualization. Let's do that one, right? Where you can call it spiritual growth, or you can call it self-actualization or personal development or self-help, or we got all these spins on it. But basically, it's this universal human desire to become the best version of ourselves, right? And so we're trying to climb the ladder when it comes to our personal development, or when it comes to other areas of life, we're trying to climb the ladder, right? Maybe when it comes to, when it comes to like our relationships with other people, right? We're trying to climb that corporate ladder. We're trying to climb the ladder in our relationships with people so that we can have healthier relationships with them, so that we can, or even circumstantially around us. You ever look around at your neighbors and the school zone that you're in, you know? You live some family that's kind of being a mess, you know? You look around at the friend group that you have and you're like, I want to get up there. Like, I want to be surrounded by different people. I want to breathe different air. I want to get out of this neighborhood. I want to be in a circumstantially different place. So we're trying to climb these ladders. And listen, there's nothing wrong with climbing the ladder. There's nothing wrong with climbing. Ladders are good. Goals are good. However, the manner and the intent with which we climb that ladder will determine what happens as we approach the top. So, since climbing ladders is something that all of us like to do in every way except for in the wrestling ring, my hope is that what we talk about today in the book of Proverbs is going to be helpful. So, if you have a Bible, you can turn to Proverbs chapter 16. That's where we're going to be in just a minute, and I'll read that in a second. But for now, you can just turn to Proverbs 16. The book of Proverbs, we've been in this series on the book of Proverbs, and if you're new or you're unfamiliar, I want to just let you know Proverbs is wisdom literature in the Bible. Not all of the Bible is written with the same literary genre, and Proverbs is written as wisdom literature. What I mean by that is, that strategy that we've all employed at some time where in the morning you're like, I'm supposed to spend time with God. And so in the morning you kind of close your eyes and flip open the Bible and then there. And you try to read a verse and hope that what you read applies to your life. That strategy that we've tried sometimes. You actually have a pretty good hit rate in Proverbs with that, as opposed to other books of the Bible, because other books of the Bible is a lot of narrative. It's telling a story about something that happened, or it's a letter written to a person or a group of people. But Proverbs is just one-liners over and over again, and they're thematically grouped together, but you have a pretty good hit rate of opening up, flipping anywhere in the book of Proverbs, putting your finger down and reading something that kind of punches you in the stomach in a good way. Like that's Proverbs. And so we've been walking through this series trying to find some practical wisdom to live by, and what we're going to read today, my hope is that it's going to be helpful for us as we climb the ladders, because in it, King Solomon, he writes something indirectly. He doesn't talk about ladders. He doesn't talk about the Undertaker either. But like in the book of Proverbs, King Solomon writes something that I think will be helpful to us as we try to climb the ladders in our life and try to do so in a healthy, helpful way. So we are in Proverbs 16, verse 18, and here is what Solomon writes. Pride goes before destruction, and haughtiness before a fall. Oh, you've heard this verse before, haven't you? You might not even know it was from the Bible. Yeah, pride goes before a fall. Oh yeah, we've all heard that before. Of course, pride goes before the fall. That's you've probably, whispered that under your breath at somebody when you walk away from them. We'll see about that, right? Pride goes before the fall. We all know this verse, but since it's wisdom literature, Solomon doesn't really dig into this idea. He kind of and then just walks away from it, right? And just kind of leaves us a little bit to just kind of grapple with that, to wrestle with that deeply for ourselves, which is what I want us to do today. If you're comfortable with that, we're just going to spend a few minutes kind of digging below the surface on this statement, this verse that we have all heard before, but we're going to dig in below the surface and see if we can walk away with something helpful to us as we climb the ladders that God has put in front of us to climb in life. So, let's first define terms. So pride and haughtiness. Okay, so I'm going to read them because I don't have them memorized. So pride refers to an overestimation of one's own worth or abilities. And then similarly, haughtiness. Haughtiness refers to someone who looks down on others and is unwilling to accept correction. So, rewritten, this verse, it's written pithy and cute, which I'm a fan of. I like cute things. So I like the way that Solomon wrote it. However, if we were to rewrite it in a way that was as clear as possible, an overestimation of one's own worth or abilities, that goes before destruction. And looking down on others or being unwilling to accept correction, that goes before a fall. And that's kind of how, if we were to rewrite it, that's what we do. And let me tell you something. This is not Solomon just making stuff up off the top of his head, just kind of creating concepts out of thin air. It's actually not even just Solomon reflecting back on his own life, which would be enough in some ways. I mean, the dude lived quite a life, so he's learned a lot of things. That would be good. But what Solomon actually says here is a core, fundamental truth to the human experience. This is a core, fundamental plot point of the gospel. In fact, it is one of the very first plot points of the gospel. So without turning there, let me turn our attention back to the Garden of Eden. So back in the Garden of Eden, God creates man, he creates woman, and he tells them a couple of things. Number one, y'all gonna be in charge. Number one, y'all are made in my image. I created you are good, and you are made in my image. And then he tells Adam and Eve, he says, I'm gonna put y'all in charge of everything. Tend the earth, name the animals, make babies. Those are the three things. Oh, follow me. That was the most important one, probably. Yeah. Follow me. Dominion over the earth and make babies. And so he get ultimate worth. I mean, God just gives Adam and Eve, the first human beings, ultimate worth. Right? I mean, he tells them, you are the only creatures in the entire universe that are created in my image. You, Adam and Eve, you are the only creatures on planet Earth who are in charge of everything. How much more worth could you want than that? And so, when the enemy, in the form of a Satan, in the form of a serpent, when Satan kind of slithers up to Adam and Eve, right, and whispers some nonsense into their ear, what he essentially is doing is introducing Adam and Eve to pride. He introduces you deserve more. Hey, you could do more. You could have more. I don't think this is enough. You could have more. They're the only ones created in God's image. They're already over everything on planet Earth, and the enemy comes in and goes, I don't know. And so what ends up happening is Adam and Eve, they listen to this deception from the enemy, but here's the form. Here's how I want to frame it up, right? They overestimate their worth. They overestimate their worth, right? Oh, I deserve more than this. I deserve more than this. They overestimate their abilities. Listen, God only gave human beings the ability. He said, you guys are perfect as is. And human beings had the ability to do three things: follow him, take dominion over the earth, and make babies. Those are the three things that God gave humans the ability to do, and he called it perfect. Human beings, this is like a different sermon, but we didn't even know the difference between good and evil. When God said it was perfect, human beings didn't even have that concept of good and evil. All that he gave us the ability to do in perfection, the perfect Garden of Eden, as it was designed to be, was follow him. That's all we ever needed. But the enemy came in and he whispered, no, you could have more, you could do more. And so Adam and Eve overestimated their worth and overestimated their abilities, and what followed can only be described as destruction. In fact, what do we call, pop quiz, what do we call this moment in human history, in the gospel narrative, where Adam and Eve go against what God has designed them to do, and sin enters the world? We call that moment the fall. Because pride comes before the fall. This is not Solomon just saying things. This is a fundamental human truth. Pride comes before the fall. It was always that way back from the very beginning, and it is still that way with us here today. So, my fear is that some of us could be tempted to walk away from this message wishing that somebody else heard it. You know, you got that one person, you're like, they need to heard this. You know, my goodness gracious, get over yourself, right? And that's fine. If you want to share this with them, you can. But since we're here today, we're the ones who are in the room watching online, my hope is that we can walk away, each of us, with something that is for us as we climb the ladders in life. So, I'm going to introduce us to, it might not be an introduction. You might already have these in your mind and in your heart and stuff like that. But I'm going to share 3, and there could be more. I mean, there'd be so more. We could be here all day. But I'm going to share 3, introduce us to 3 types of pride that aren't as obvious. They're maybe a little more below the surface. They maybe require a little more digging. They're maybe not the thing that you think of when you think of pride. Because listen, when we think of pride, most of us think of this guy. Okay? When we think of pride, that's who we're thinking of, is this guy right here. This isn't a real person. This is AI, but don't you just want to punch him in the face? You know? This is not a real human being. This is ones and zeros. I want to give those ones and zeros a noogie so bad. I mess up dumb, beautiful hair, right? Well, most of us think of pride. We think of this guy. The more you look at it, the funnier it gets. God's favorite, legends don't compete, self-made, self-paid, self-obsessed. Anyway, that's funny. Okay, so we think of this, but this is not much like Adam and Eve. Much like with Adam and Eve way back in the garden, the enemy, he is typically significantly sneakier than that. Pride is sneakier than that most of the time. I mean, sure, we see that. Some of us have a little bit of that. But pride's usually a lot sneakier than that. So my hope is that to introduce us to 3 less obvious forms of pride, in the hopes that we can start to dig through it, work through it, and move beyond it in our walk with Jesus. So here is the first non-obvious form of pride, and this is the most obvious one that we will talk about today. Okay? Pride about your character. Pride about your character. For some of us, we have this pride about our character. Here's the form that it takes, okay? It's that when you go into a conflict, you already know that the other person is definitely wrong. Like, for sure. Like, as soon as someone comes to you and they're like, hey, I wanted to talk to you about something, you're already like, wrong. Like, and by the way, this makes some sense for us to have this pride about our character, because listen, you're a good person and you're a smart person. So like, if somebody else has a problem with you, it's probably a them thing. Probably, most likely. It's fair to assume that until you're absolutely forced into no other option but to admit, maybe even out loud, that maybe it's 1% your fault. And so we have this pride about our character. And listen, when we say that out loud, when we frame it up like that out loud, it's so obviously antithetical to the gospel of Jesus Christ. Obviously. I mean, of course we're flawed. Of course you're flawed. That's why Jesus had to come in the first place. Of course you're not infallible. Obviously you're going to be wrong from time to time. But yet still, despite the fact that that is so clearly antithetical to the gospel of Jesus Christ, there are many of us who wake up in the morning every day and our default posture is, they're wrong. And nobody's even confronted you yet. That's my favorite bit. They're wrong, okay? So if you want to, this isn't part of my sermon notes, but this is funny to me. If you want to, sometimes I've found that making fun of myself lightheartedly, it helps me to not take myself so seriously. So if you want to, just shine a bright light on this in your life, and you know this is you, wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and go, they're wrong. And then just giggle because of how silly that is. Like, it's silly to walk around just believing that as a default. But this pride about our character, listen, preach the gospel to yourself every day. Every day, preach the gospel to yourself. Of course, I'm infallible. This is why Jesus had to come and pay the penalty for my sin. So then I should not be surprised when every once in a while I mess up. When every once in a while I'm in the wrong. When every once in a while it's my fault, or it's 43% my fault. Whatever helps you get there, okay? So that's the first part, and that's the most obvious one. I think that's the one that most of us, we think about pride. We could probably think about some of that, okay? That's probably the most obvious one. Let me do one that's not so obvious. Pride about circumstances. Pride about your circumstances. If I were to frame this up as a millennial or a Gen Z, I would say that this is kind of like, it's like overlooking your privilege. Right, it's almost like taking your privilege for granted, and so this is me, by the way, as well. So I'm going to preach to me for a second, okay? Because let me tell you my story. Let me see a piece of my story. So for the first 30 years of my life, easy breezy. Oh man, such an easy life. You know what I mean? And as a kid, you don't realize how easy it is. But as an adult looking back, I'm like, wow, I was set up to succeed pretty well in life. That's my story. I had two parents. They were in a loving marriage, still are. They loved Jesus. They raised me to love Jesus. Upper middle class family, put me in good schools. I had great friends. They paid for my college. And I met the girl of my dreams that I would marry someday when I met her when I was 13. And then we started dating when, like, kind of really getting into a relationship when I was 16. And then that was it. Like, we just like got married like 4 years later. There wasn't drama. We never like broke up and like got back together. None of that. We just were solid. And then we got married, graduated college, got married, immediately started having children, first try, like just right away, had children, no issues with any of that stuff. And we know that stuff can be extremely difficult, but not in our story. And Anna and I graduated college, and then we both immediately got jobs in the fields, in the industry that we studied for in college, which is not how it works anymore. And so we just immediately got jobs in those fields, and we have continued to excel and climb the ladder in those fields all along the way. First 30 years of life just breezing through, man. And somewhere along the way, I would have never said it out loud. I didn't realize that I believed it. I wouldn't even have preached it from the stage because it's bad theology. But somewhere along the way, this core belief started to develop within me. I don't struggle. Struggle isn't for people like me. It's for other people. I see people who struggle just seems to be, you know what I mean? Maybe people who, I don't know, like maybe they born in other countries or they're just from a different, socioeconomic class or they've got, lots of family issues. I don't know. But this, for me, struggle ain't for people like me. It's just not. Like, I don't. Sorry, I'm not gonna apologize for it. Like, struggle ain't for people like me. Like, God just looks down on me and he's like, here you go. And I'm like, thank you. And so that's for me. And then 3 years ago, my family just lost our housing. And we've lived transiently ever since. And that story has been told from the stage here many times over the last 3 years, so I'm not going to retell the whole story. But to summarize it, my family of 7, it's not even like we have a small family, like that's a lot of kids, because there's only 2 of us anyways. So we're outnumbered, you know what I'm saying, is what I'm saying? Okay. Our family of 7 has lived in 5 different homes and 2 different hotels over the last 3 years. That's tough, man. That's transient. And there have been many times over the past few years where I found myself so angry with God for allowing these things to happen. Which makes some sense, right? Like who could blame me? But the reason that I think it's so helpful that we dig into verses like this is because what I've been forced to realize is that my anger toward God for allowing these things to happen to me and my family, I'm not angry with God for allowing bad things to happen. God allows bad things to happen all the time. And I'm not mad. I'm maybe like, oh, that's sad. Or I might feel for somebody else, but I'm not mad. I'm not angry with God most of the time when he allows bad things to happen out there. No. I'm angry with God because he allowed bad things to happen to me. And I don't struggle. People like me, struggle isn't for people like me. It might be for other people, That might be what God has for other people, but not for people like me. I'm not supposed to be going through this. I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I did the right stuff. Struggle isn't for me. Do you see how ugly that is? You see how quick that gets real ugly? And ain't nobody would ever blame me for being mad at God for some of the stuff that we've been through. It's honestly been ridiculous. If you've been tracking with the journey, it's genuinely been insane. But when you really step back and take a look at that and you dig into it, that gets really ugly really fast. That gets pretty despicable pretty fast, doesn't it? There's a lot of pride wrapped up in that when that's the core belief. But that was my core belief, and I've had to confront that over the last few years. Acknowledge that, repent of that, turn from that, because that's not cute and it's not the gospel. Listen, what I'm saying is that when Jesus said, do you see how someone could easily fall away from their faith? And that's the reason? It's because of this? I guess what I'm saying is like when Jesus said to his disciples, all who would come after, he said, in this world you will have trouble. He meant you. He meant me. And so for me, the thing that I've kind of the thing that I've just kind of had to acknowledge is if that's really what's going on, the problem isn't with God. The problem is with me, with my heart. And so for those who have walked away from Jesus because of things happening in their life, I'm not saying that their issue, the thing going on in their heart is your story might not be my story. Your cousin's story might not be my story. But I'm looking at my story and I'm going, if there's anyone who's ever been in my position and that's really what's going on in their heart, it doesn't make any sense to walk away from a good God because of a bad heart. When really what's going on is there's pride and it needs to be, I don't have time for this. Okay, here's the third one. The third one is pride about your power. Pride about your power. And this one is sneaky. It's so sneaky because it presents as humility. It presents as humility. It's like the thought is like if this guy right here is the epitome of pride. Pride comes before the fall. If this guy's the epitome of pride, then being whatever the absolute opposite of that is, must be good. And for a lot of us, the opposite ends up taking shape as just shame and self-hatred. And we just hate, oh my gosh, we feel so bad about ourselves all the time, and we feel unworthy. And it feels like humility, but this too is pride. This too is pride. You mean to tell me the God of the universe tells you that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you look in the mirror and you hate what you see, and you don't think that's pride? No, that's pride. You mean to tell me that the God of the universe looks at you and calls you a beloved, his beloved dearly and beloved child, and you don't think it's pride to call yourself unworthy of love? No, that's pride. That's pride. The God of everything, King of all things, looks at you, he looks you in the eye and says, you are blank. You don't think it's pride to look God dead in his eye and be like, I don't think so. No, of course that's pride. Of course it's pride. It doesn't feel like stereotypical pride, but it's absolutely pride. It is you saying to the God of everything, no, I know better. I know what I am. I know what I'm meant to be. I know. You call me this, and thank you for being such a sweetheart to me, God, but don't lie to my face. I know it. No, that's pride. That's pride. Stop it. Stop it. Like shame is so destructive. It's so destructive, and it feels like you're doing something good. Oh, I did a bad thing, but then I hated myself for it. It feels so good. You're like, yeah. No, the God of everything looked at you in your imperfection and said you are worthy, and then he died to make it true. So stop trying to tell yourself, others around you, and the God who created you that you're unworthy, that you're unforgivable. Listen to me, this is pride about your power. Your darkness ain't strong enough to snuff out his light. You don't got it like that. You're not even close. You're not even close to that. It's pride. If you believe that your darkness is dark enough to overpower, to snuff out God's light, that is classic overestimation of your abilities. It's pride. Stop it. Believe the gospel. Enough about that. Here's the point. The point is, don't let pride hide inside. Listen, there's all kinds of, there's pride that we see and it's so obvious, you know, it's, yeah, okay, sure, yeah, don't do that. Obviously, yeah, that's bad. But listen, there's all these other kinds of pride that they're sneakier, man. They're quieter, but they're every bit as destructive. Don't let pride hide inside. Dig in, swim around in your own heart enough to see and know what's going on in there. And then when you see it, like what I did with my story, when you see it, start to walk around it. Take a look at it from all sides, right? And then take this and hold it up against the gospel of Jesus Christ and just see how it does. See how it does. Just measure it up against the gospel and see how it does. And when you do that regularly, what you're going to discover is there's going to be these corners of your heart where pride existed. You didn't quite realize it because it felt normal to you. And you're going to hold that up against the gospel, and the light of the gospel is going to shine against it, and it's going to disintegrate. Because you're going to realize, no. That's not what I believe. That's not what I want to believe, and it's not what I believe. Don't let pride hide inside. Let me take us back to wrestling. I know you've been waiting for me to talk more about WWE. So, before I get to that, when you do this, here's a couple of things are going to happen. When you do this, you hold this up and, you're going to start to develop healthier relationships, right? Pride comes before the fall. Listen, if your thing is that you just assume everybody else is wrong, pride comes before the fall. Listen, you don't even have to wait for the fall. If that's your thing, it's already happening. The destruction is already happening around you as you erode away at the relationships around you because you ain't never wrong about nothing. The pride is already happening. The discussions, it's already happening. The fall is already happening. Listen, pride comes before the fall. So when you hold this up and hold that up, what you're going to discover is you're going to have healthier relationships. You're going to you might even say sorry. Sometimes. I know, it's crazy. But you're going to do it, and it's going to come easier and easier because you've preached the gospel to yourself. For some of you, when life gets hard and it's going to get difficult, like we all get punched in the face, it's going to happen. Jesus said, in this life, you will have trouble. When that happens, oh man, it's going to be tough, but you're not going to melt into a puddle, right? Like you're not just going to waste away. It'd be hard. There might be moments where you're upset with God. God can handle your anger. He can handle your frustration. That's fine. But you're not gonna just be overcome because you know that it comes for us all. There's no pride about your circumstances. You will develop resiliency in the midst of difficulty. For some of you, it's not going to be any of that stuff. For some of us in the room, it's going to be a little bit more about our circumstances, or it's going to be a little bit more about our relationships, maybe in conflict, but it might be more about the third one, which is escaping me right now. What was the third thing I talked about? Y'all know? No, I'm serious. Do you remember? Oh, power. Yeah. Oh, that was a good one. Okay, so it might be more about our power. Right? It'll be that, yeah, when you make mistakes, like, yes, you'll feel guilty, but you won't puddle. It's not going to be like a shame thing, right? You'll see your flaws, and then grace-based humility. I'm flawed, but God covers my flaws in Christ. You'll develop like a stable identity. And this isn't I promise we're getting back to the WWE. I know I'm taking a long time to get there. We're going to get back to it, I promise. When we climb the ladders in life, like climbing the ladders well isn't really the point of this sermon. Like that's kind of like okay, sure. But you know what's interesting? People who climb the ladders well without crashing and burning, they're usually people who have healthy relationships. They're usually people who have a stable identity. They're usually people who have a strong sense of resiliency, that when you address these pride things within you, it will help you climb the ladders better in your life, in a healthier way, without crashing and burning. Listen, I've been listening to WWE superstars and retired ones talk about the whole like getting on top of a ladder thing, right, and jumping off. Here's what I've noticed. There's 3 core beliefs that seem to be like true within all of them, okay? Some of them are just crazy and and that's fine. But some of them are, like, there is a string of beliefs in there. The first one is, the first belief when they're standing on top of the ladder is, I trust that dude down there or that woman down there, I trust that they'll keep me safe. They'll do their part to keep me safe. I trust them. That's healthy relationships. It's a core part of jumping off that ladder. The second one is things might go poorly, right? Like something bad could happen here, but if it does, I'll make it through. It's this resiliency. And then the third thing is, this is what I was created to do. Man, this is what I was made to do.